final episode of She-Hulk has dropped on Disney Plus, so today we're going to stop and rank every Phase 4 Marvel Disney Plus show from the worst to the best. This video is brought to you by Upside.
This weekend I spoke at an event in middle of nowhere, Texas. In fact, it was in such a remote location that it was less than 5 miles away from the house from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I don't know where to get gas in Kingsland, Texas, but Upside, it will give me cash back on each gallon that I purchase.
It's super easy to use. You just open up the app and it shows you nearby offers. To get started, download the app for free in the App Store or Google Play and use my promo code Chandler and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. And with how bananas inflation has been recently, Upside is a no-brainer. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit card or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to other credit card reward and loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more with Upside, and you can cash out at any point in time with PayPal, your bank account, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Download Upside at the link down below in the description and start earning cash back on purchases you're going to be making anyway. With that said, let's get started. In last place, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Now, don't get me wrong, I had some fun with this show. It was great to get to see Daredevil again, and the lead actress is actually very charismatic and fun to watch on screen, but the show she's in, not so much. I mean, a legal sitcom about a woman's love life set in the MCU was always going to be a pretty hard sell for me, but they just made a lot of choices that I just don't think did them any favors. It's a show that seems a lot more interested in making a point than telling a compelling story. It's a show that was more interested in going meta than coming to a fulfilling conclusion. So all of those things just kind of made it feel very strange to me all along the way. Adding to that, as a sitcom, I didn't find the comedy all that funny. As a legal show, the court cases weren't compelling and their understanding of the legal system, not really the best. Like, it's a show that felt preemptively designed to troll its own trolls, and your enjoyment of the show is largely tied to how much mileage you get out of a show trolling its own audience. It's so strange to set up your show to lecture a segment of the audience. It's so strange to set out wanting to troll a segment of the audience. And it's so strange to set up a bunch of plot points at the beginning that in your finale, you're going to call lazy and messy writing. It's just bizarre. And ultimately, what puts it at the bottom, because I mean, I did have fun with it, is that it just doesn't feel like it fits in the MCU. It treats things as jokes that have previously not been treated as jokes. It dumbs down certain characters, and it just feels too goofy to fit in the rest of this universe. Number 9, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What should have been an easy win turned into a lackluster mess. I mean, this was one of my most anticipated Marvel projects of last year. MCU plus buddy cop formula, 2 likable lead characters. What could possibly go wrong? Apparently a whole lot more than I expected. And it's tough to know exactly where things went wrong. This was a show that was greatly affected by COVID. They had to remove some plot lines because of that. And maybe that was the piece that was missing that kind of made the whole thing fall apart for me. But the show that they released was so interested in making the villains sympathetic that they forgot to make them villains, that they don't have much of a villain plot line, in which case when you have this threat and you're traveling the globe trying to stop someone and you never actually make them villainous. That's a problem, especially when you keep doing things to try and convince us that John Walker's the absolute worst, but he's also still on the good side. It's just several things that didn't come together, and all of it built up to a finale that gets literally preachy. You have Captain America literally preaching at someone at the end of the final episode. And so a show that lacked stakes, it lacked a compelling story, and it just made some really bad choices with where it decided to, who they decided to make sympathetic, who they decided to make come off as villainous. But the one good thing in here is we did get to see Zemo's sweet dance moves. Next up, I Am Groot, a series of cute and amusing shorts about Groot. Each of them are just a little anecdote that puts a smile on your face. They're pleasant enough. They bring in some guest appearances in a few of them. And so if you're just looking for some very light entertainment that goes by very quickly, they're fun to put on. At the same time, they very much feel like content for content's sake, that Disney Plus requested that they have something for everyone. And so Kevin Feige's like, let's make some little Groot shorts. They don't have any significance to the grander narrative. They don't tell a story that like stirs the emotions. They're just cute little bits. That's all they're supposed to be. That's all they are. And so they're the sort of thing that when my kids are about to go to bed and they go, hey, can we watch one more thing? I'll throw on one of these. They can watch one or two of these before they head on up to bed. And that's about it. They're good enough for what they are. I don't really need them to exist. And the reason that they're actually above the bottom two on this list is because the bottom two did things that like literally bothered me that they're involved in the MCU. And with this one, it's just like, okay, it's just kind of there. Cool. Number 7, Moon Knight, and I am so brokenhearted that this one is so low on the list because this is another one that was one of my most anticipated Marvel projects of this year, and it started off really well, doing something different with the kind of this more mature story about someone who's having this breakdown and he doesn't know what's going on. It does a great job of building intrigue. Of course, you've got a great actor in the lead that is fun. He's charismatic. He can portray an array of emotions. And as he's playing multiple people in one body, he has the chops to be able to actually do that in a convincing way. And so it started off really well, and then the further it went along, it just felt like it was meandering. It felt like every episode after the second one shifted genres and was doing something totally different, and it just got like weirder and weirder, and not the right ways, and not a way that made it compelling or that I appreciated that it was doing something fresh and new. It was just like, I'm not crazy about where this is headed. Like almost all of these Disney Plus shows with 6 episodes, you get to the end and it feels like it's rushing through the conclusion. And so you just drop into the finale and all of a sudden it goes into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers mode over the pyramids in Egypt. And the other one that's just bizarre about this one, there's not a lot of Moon Knight in Moon Knight. It felt so interesting doing this globe trotting and exploring the afterlife and diving into Egyptian mythology. It did all this stuff, but we didn't get so much Moon Knight. As a show I was so excited about. It started so well, and I felt like it just lost all momentum. It lost all the intrigue. It just got too weird and didn't deliver enough. Moon Knight. Then we have Miss Marvel, and this one really surprised me. The trailers for the show definitely did not win me over, and it seemed... Then we have Miss Marvel, and this one really surprised me. The trailers for the show didn't really interest me at all. It came off way too kiddie, and then I checked out the first 2 episodes, and they actually really won me over. I dug the aesthetic and the vibe that they were going for. Does all like this visual onomatopoeia and stuff to like visualize the thoughts going on inside of her head. It really worked for me, and then it pulled me into her world, both with her family and her friends, and I actually enjoyed the family dynamic that was going on. And then I feel like it didn't stick to the original setup, and it went on kind of like this rabbit trail in the middle of it. This season to me felt like episodes 1, 2, and 6 were season 1, and episodes 3, 4, and 5 were season 2, and they just mashed season 2 into the middle of this one. And I think it kind of sabotaged both of them, because it was like you set up this whole thing about being a local superhero, learning to use her powers, and then she goes globe-trotting, goes to Pakistan. We learn about the history of everything. We go back to the 1940s and do an adult drama for 20 minutes. And then for the finale, we come back and we resolve the plot that was set up in the first 2 episodes. So I feel like if they just split that, season 1, season 2, let each of those stories have its time, both of them would have come out nicely. And it ended on a fun note. So I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the setup, the vibe, the conclusion, the rabbit trail in the middle. Not so much. And once again, it feels like they struggle with this 6-episode format where they rush the conclusion and they don't know how much to put it in, how much not to put in, how to develop things properly. So that really let me down because I was actually getting really invested in this one. And once again, meandered, got lost in the middle, and lost some of the momentum. But I still enjoyed spending time with Kamala and her friends, the aesthetic, the vibe. Actually surprised me in a good way. Number 5, Loki. Now, this is a series that I went into extremely skeptical. I was as vocal of a critic of the idea of doing a Loki show after Loki died as anyone, and I still kind of feel like the MCU needs to learn how to let characters die and move on. But the show itself quickly won me over. They found a clever little angle on how to bring him back and what to do with him that doesn't feel like we're just undoing his death, but doing this whole other thing in this other multiversal realm that was actually quite interesting and charming. Now, it's not it's a show that I really enjoyed on its initial run, but I don't have a lot of desire to rewatch. So it kind of fits in this interesting spot of like, that was a fun experience. Cool, maybe I'll rewatch it when season 2 comes out, but it's not one that I feel drawn back to all that much. Now, when it comes to the experience itself of watching it, it was just kind of fun to do this crime procedural with this like analog aesthetic, but in this TVA world where we're hopping through portals with advanced technology. Just a really nice vibe to what they're doing. I love the dialogue between Loki and Mobius, and the fact that they found ways to incorporate so much like philosophy into it and explore Loki in kind of this poignant way. I really dug a lot of those things. And then, you know, when we start doing all the variants and stuff, I got to kick out a lot of the things that they did with that. It's, once again, it's one that I really enjoyed the experience of watching it. I can point to all these things like, that was really cool. I really dug that. It's also not one that I'm looking to rewatch. Then we have What If, and I totally get that this show was not for a lot of you. I totally dug what they were doing with this show. Maybe that's because growing up, I used to read the old What If comics, and these types of scenarios are kind of interesting to me, but totally get why, for many of you, it's just too inconsequential, it's too episodic, it's just too weird, random, and having to rush through the story too quickly. I was all for what they were doing. I really enjoyed just this concept of taking all of these stories that we know from the MCU and just changing a little detail at a pivotal moment, and then the way they did this trickle down with it, where there's the one change that you know, and then something else changes because of that, and it kind of keeps on going. It leads to just this absolutely gut-wrenching episode with Doctor Strange. Other ones are just weird and wild and wacky, like zombies. And then I loved how they like actually used it to pull it together and did their Guardians of the Multiverse finale over a 2-episode little run. I wasn't expecting that. Totally dug that they actually went to a place like that. And while the show itself is very episodic and so thus hit or miss at certain points in time, you're going to like certain ones more than others, they still found a way to have a little bit of a arc throughout the entire thing. So for me, I really do get why many of you didn't care for it. I totally dug it. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of all 10 Phase 4 shows, shorts, and specials. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I'd love to see yours. Also, I've done a ton of these MCU rankings before and done a ton of content doing individual videos about all of these shows, many individuals about these shows. You can check all of that out in these playlists up here when this video is over with. In third place, WandaVision. Now, this is another show that I was extraordinarily skeptical of when they announced it, when they told us the title, when they told us the concept, when they put out the trailers. I was like, I don't know what this is. Then I watched the first 3 episodes, and I still was like, I don't know what this is or what to make of it. And then you get around episode 4 and they start giving just enough answers, and I got hooked. I was all in. And this is a show that once you get into it, it was so good at building intrigue, making you wonder what's going to happen next, raising all of these questions that you're fascinated by and want to know where everything is headed, and I was all in. Of all of these shows, this is the one where I probably got hooked the most and was just most invested in trying to figure out everything that was going on. It just does this really interesting job of blending sitcoms of the decades, Twilight Zone, MCU mythology, following up Endgame, and telling a story about grief and tragedy. It just blends all those together so well. And it does such a great job of building that intrigue and going on this journey that it just highlights how lackluster the actual finale and answers were. It's so good at raising the questions and pretty bad at giving the answers. And also it's one where you just get to the end, and once again, we have CGI characters with capes flying around punching each other in the face. And once you get to the end of it and you realize Wanda was the villain all along that was behind all of this, the show goes out of its way to try and forgive her and let her off the hook for kidnapping and torturing people for weeks. Someone literally says to her, they'll never know what you sacrificed for them. And that just ended it on such a sour note for me. So this is one it's tough to rank because it was so great. It was so good. It was so creative, so inventive, until it wasn't. But out of all these, this is the one that I've rewatched the most and the one I got most invested in, so I gotta have it in my top 3. Our runner-up, Hawkeye. To me, this was just a thoroughly enjoyable show because it actually felt like a TV show. It had no pretenses of trying to be a big, gigantic, blockbuster story, except told in 6 episodes. No, it's a street-level adventure with small stakes, and that's why it worked for me. That's what I enjoyed about it. It knew what it was, and it went for it, and it had a fantastic set of characters that I enjoyed spending time with. Finally, Hawkeye gets to be front and center and have a journey of his own that kind of deals with everything that he did during the blip, and there's ramifications for it, but it also allows him to get some redemption and move forward. I think Kate Bishop is a great addition to the MCU, and partnering up with Yelena was an awful lot of fun, and both of them just kind of have an infectious charm to them, and especially with Kate Bishop just has this innocence that just livens everything up quite a bit. So for me, this is kind of what I want these shows to be like, is something like this. I know a lot of people were disappointed that Kingpin only showed up in the last episode and then that felt rushed. Yeah, you're correct. Like with every single one of these shows, the finale was rushed, so they're all kind of universally dinged for having a rushed finale. I think using Kingpin as like a mystery villain that's a final reveal, I think they shot themselves in the foot. Everyone would have been happier if he had just been in it for like 3-4 episodes. That would have been far more satisfying, better build up. Totally agree with all of that, but that's that same criticism for all of these shows. And so for me, I got what I wanted. I like these types of shows. These are the types of shows that I normally just watch. And my biggest complaint is I just wanted more episodes. But coming in at number 1 is the Halloween special itself, Werewolf by Night, a standalone story that gets to establish its own tone, its own lore, its own set of characters. It's unbound by the rest of the MCU. It's not trying to deliver big, massive stakes. It doesn't have to be a piece in the puzzle of phase 4, 5, and 6 of the MCU. It just gets to tell this simple story about kind of this family and this world of monster hunters. And you get to go in, and because of all this, it's more stylized than anything else in the MCU, but it's able to get away with that. It's this nice homage to old monster movies, but it still has a lot of the modern aesthetics and fight choreography and how that plays out. doesn't give us a ton of time to dive into these characters, but establishes them quickly and neatly so that we understand what they want, why they want it, and little simple lines of dialogue about Elsa Bloodstone and leaving her family and being trained by someone else and just stating, you guys don't deserve the stone. It just communicates so much without needing to over-explain her backstory. Likewise, because they went black and white because of, for whatever reason, they're actually able to get away with a bunch of gore in here where arms are cut off, axes go into faces, blood sprays at the camera when people are cut. Just a lot of fun stuff like that gets to happen. And I feel like this is a model for what they need to do more of on Disney Plus. This is a model for the right types of risks for them to take. This risk absolutely paid off for me, absolutely worked, absolutely fit. And I hope that we get to see more of these characters. I hope that we get to see more specials like this. And my biggest issue with Werewolf by Night is I wish that it was like 20 minutes longer. I could have spent 20 more minutes fleshing out this simple little story, seeing a few more fights in there, getting to know these characters just a little bit better. But other than that, I totally dug what this delivered, and I hope we get more of it. So it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, remember I've got more Marvel Disney Plus content as well as a ton of MCU rankings. You can check those out right over there. Remember to check out Upside for free at the link down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.